One of the White House senior advisors said that the only people that would be against this rule are polluters. I think that's just another slap in the face saying that if you're against it, you must be a polluter.
Nebraska farmer Darren Niemeyer expressing discontent with what the EPA is trying to do with the Clean Water Act. Now that act extends jurisdiction over the waters of the U.S. Here's the little EPA interpretation of it. They're expanding it to include ditches, wetlands, streams, floodplains, even ornamental landscape features. The Clean Water Act is important, and this carries serious implications. So let's bring in our panel. Joining us now via telephone from Washington, Congressman Randy Hultgren. He's a member of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. And Skyping in from South Carolina, the former chairman of that committee, former Congressman Bob Walker of Pennsylvania. Randy, to you first. I thought EPA stood for Environmental Protection Agency. Sounds to me like you could change it to end run around political authority. What's going on?
Totally agree that this is an amazing power grab that is going after literally every body of water, has a direct negative impact on something that's fundamental, JD, the idea of property rights. And EPA wants to take all of our property. We see it most directly harming our farmers, harming those who are in construction or development or planning. But every single one of us are threatened by this, and it is such an incredible overreach by EPA. Again, an entity that is supposed to be about bringing clarity to air and water instead has an incredibly unclear rule that they put out that really does threaten private property rights.
Now, Bob Walker, some people watching this may say, come on, you mean they really are going to consider a puddle navigable water and try to control it? What is going on in your mind, Bob?
Well, I don't think that they're going to consider it as navigable water, but they're going to consider it as their jurisdiction over virtually any water. I have a little run that goes down back of my property that when it rains, it has some water that comes down it. My interpretation of what EPA is doing is saying that particular stream is something that they're going to now regulate. And they could therefore say something to me about how I use my property because I'm beside that waterway.
We've got a little more than 3 minutes left in the segment. Randy, what can Congress do to turn back this executive branch overreach by the EPA?
Well, there is some good activity. We've passed legislation in the House that turns this back. The other thing we can continue to do is fight to defund this incredible overreach by EPA. And I am optimistic in this, that this is a bipartisan frustration of seeing this incredible overreach by EPA. We've seen it before, but I would say this is a new low of overreach by EPA. So my hope is either by taking away funding or restriction through legislation, we'll be able to rein them in.
Good enough. Now, I have to switch topics with 2.5 minutes remaining. And Bob Walker, when we were in Congress together, you are an unabashed space enthusiast. Here's what I understand now. NASA testing a flying saucer in an attempt to get a handle on the technology that we might use to transport astronauts to Mars. What about this, quote, flying saucer technology?
Well, I don't know a lot about it other than the fact that we are looking at all kinds of aerodynamic models that could be used once we get to Mars and have to deal with the Martian atmosphere. Beyond that, we're looking at all kinds of designs that can be used to transport people from Earth orbit to Mars. And so a lot of that experimentation is going to take place, and I think we're going to see an awful lot of very strange pieces of technology that come out of it.
Now, Randy, I don't know if there are earthly considerations, but since President Obama spent a good portion of his youth in Hawaii, and I understand this flying saucer research is going on in the Aloha State, is that purely coincidental? We've got about a minute left.
It's a good question. But, you know, to me, I share your excitement, the chairman's excitement for exploration and discovery. It's such a key part of who we are as Americans, is to discover new frontiers. And so excited about steps towards Mars. And as Chairman Walker said, I think these are going to be interesting days. Hopefully we can get NASA focused and really inspire young people, just as we were inspired by those first astronauts who achieved so much.
Well, I am holding out for warp drive like Star Trek, but we'll see what happens. Gentlemen, to you both, we appreciate it. Former Science Committee Chair Bob Walker checking in from Hilton Head, South Carolina via Skype, and Congressman Randy Hultgren from Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, we thank you very, very much. We just spoke of space, and it's worth noting that there is an important milestone we remember from up above a half-century ago today. Back to talk about that and more as we continue.